Hello. I think everyone is now coming in through the waiting room. Thank you for holding on just for 2 minutes while we get everything set up. It's now the afternoon. Brilliant. So I can say good afternoon and welcome to the Ministry of Justice and the Department of Education linked dataset briefing. And this is for our flagship dataset that focuses on England only. And this webinar is part of a series to support upcoming funding for research fellowships, which will be launching next year. Next slide, please, Steve. So just an overview of the research fellowship funding opportunity. Next slide, please. Thank you. We want to enable policy relevant research to use our ADR UK flagship data. And this is underpinned by our flagship framework. We want to enable new users to our flagship data to feel supported in how they undertake research, and we have a whole number of mechanisms to do this. And our programme is open to all accredited researchers. This launch of this funding opportunity builds on previous and very successful research fellowships and their particular programmes of work. And we're keen to keep the momentum going around research agendas. And you will hear from Kirby today talking about the breadth and depth of the MOJ DFE linked flagship dataset. And importantly for us, we want to inspire the use of these flagship datas that we believe and support so passionately in to making sure that they're used for the right purposes in research and to drive research that benefits society. Next slide, please, Steve. So as you can see on the right hand side of the page here, we do have 2 QR codes and 2 links to both the announcement on our flagship dataset page for the research fellowship funding call, but also a link to the Ministry of Justice and the DFE linked dataset information. So the research fellowship funding opportunity is specific to ADR England in this funding call. We want to help researchers develop feasible and robust research agendas based on what's actually possible with each flagship dataset to improve the feasibility of proposed agendas. And because of the expertise that comes with each dataset, we want to enable engagement with the experts, with those who understand what's in the dataset, which is why we bring together these webinars with our data owners who are our partners in our funding opportunity and actually how we run the programme. And as I mentioned, we're very lucky to have Kirby here today to talk about the DFE MOJ data share, and Kirby's head of data linking within the MOJ. Next slide, please, Steve. So just to highlight some upcoming webinars that will be continuing after this. Again, please do head to our pre-announcement page to see when they are, if you want to sign up to them. And previous webinars have been recorded and are available to view when they become kind of organised for us on our webpage. And again, if you want to come back to this webinar at any point, this will also be recorded and hosted on our webpage. Next slide, please, Steve.
I think that's the end of them, Lola.
Fabulous. And we will be able to hand over to Kirby now. Thank you, Kirby.
Perfect. I will just try and share my screen. One sec. Can you see my screen?
We can indeed.
Perfect. Cool. Yes, so hi everyone, I'm Kirby Seward. I head up a data linking team within MOJ, so we do data shares with other government departments. I'm going to flag, I can't see anyone, so I'll just present, and if anyone raises their hand, then just jump in because it's taken over my whole screen. And I will also apologise for this next slide because if you were just in the Safer Streets workshop, this is a repeat of this slide, but then the future slides are different. So anyway, yeah, the MOJ DfE data share is a cross-departmental project that increases our understanding of the links between childhood characteristics, education outcomes, and reoffending analysis that is not otherwise possible to conduct. Pardon? Did someone jump in there? Okay, I'll go on. Includes data on young people's educational attainment and characteristics such as free school meal eligibility, special educational needs, absence and exclusions linked to the police national computer data on their criminal histories and interactions with the criminal justice system. The pilot of the share was carried out in 2015, which demonstrated the value that bringing education and justice data together can offer. So since 2019, rather than a single share, we've engraved an ongoing link expected to be updated annually. The share itself has evolved over the years in response to researcher feedback. So, for example, previously we only included latest episode of social care, whereas now we include all episodes of social care, and this just allows us to look at the sequencing of care experiencing and offending. The share itself continues to evolve, and we are currently updating the next version of the share, and improvements for this include reducing the time lag of the share. So the previous version of the share went up to the end of 2021, whereas the new version will cover offending data up to May 2025 and education data up to the academic year 2024-25. And we've also included a few other data sets. So we've got the inclusion of Asset Plus, which will combine practitioner, parent, carer and personal assessments with education and social care experiences and offending histories. And this will enhance our understanding of what works in the youth justice to prevent and divert offending by children and young people. And then we've also got the inclusion of prison education data and higher education data. So yeah, the data share itself has been available to external academics via the ONS Secure Research Service for quite a while now, and we have approved over 30 projects to use the share for the research, which has covered a broad range of themes. So I did struggle to fit it all on one slide, but I've attempted to group it into 4 themes. So analysis looking at the impact of policy and interventions on crime, such as the impact of Sure Start programs on youth offending, or the impact of education maintenance allowance on involvement in the criminal justice system. Then we've got analysis looking at socio-demographic factors and inequality, such as the intersections between ethnicity, care experience, and criminal justice involvement for the first time. We've then got analysis looking at offending trajectories, such as the education and social care predictors of female offending trajectories. And then finally, we've got analysis looking at the mental health and behavioural factors, such as the impact of neuropsychological difficulties identified in the early years foundation stage profiles on school exclusion and justice system contact. So yeah, as I said, we've been making available the data available on the ONS SRS, I think, since the end of 2020, which means we are now starting to see some output from researchers, which is really exciting. So I've just included a few to give you a flavour of some of the results being found with the data, which should hopefully allow you to see the potential of the data share. So the IFS conducted a robust evaluation of the impact of access to Sure Start on children's absence and suspensions at school, youth offending, and contacts with their children's social care system. So they found access to a nearby Sure Start centre between ages 0 and 4 significantly reduced youth crime that resulted in convictions or custodial sentences, and living within 2.5 kilometres of a Sure Start centre reduced the share of 16-year-olds who had ever received a criminal conviction by 13%. Meanwhile, custodial sentences, the most severe sanction, fell by a fifth due to access to Sure Start. Another example is from LSE, who studied the causal impact of compulsory schooling on the possibility to sire an actual act to commit crime by combining variation in school closure dates for all secondary schools in England with administrators' records of educational and criminal trajectories. and they found school attendance reduces the incidence of indictable violence and it increases the incidence of summary violence, and they provide at least strongly suggested evidence that schools may prevent not so much the incidents but rather the most serious types of physical violence. And then in-person interactions at school are important drivers of minor acts of violence among students. They recommended schools in the same locality should set their closure dates on different weekdays, as students being off at the same time from different schools may result in increased insults. And then the final one is just the Behavioural Insights team combined administrative data, including the MOJ DFE share, with randomised control trials to understand whether educational interventions led to additional benefits or cost. Results from the primary analysis show that none of the interventions from the 5 trials in scope demonstrated any significant impacts on criminal convictions in the 12 months after the intervention actually started, although the prevalence of criminal convictions in general were very low for pupils in the archives, reflecting the low prevalence and overall in the school age population. So that's likely why there was little impact. And these slide is just talking about the previous ADR fellows that have been funded to conduct research using the MOJ DFE share. So I'll just highlight some of their findings from this. Was from that first fellowship call that we did with ADR. So Katie Hunter found care experienced children were disproportionately likely to have youth justice involvement compared to those without care experience, with some groups of ethnic minority children being even more likely to have youth justice involvement. And then a significantly higher proportion of care experienced children received a custodial sentence compared to non-care experienced children. And then custodial sentences were twice as common among Black and mixed ethnicity care experience compared to white care experienced children. And then Wilcock aimed to assess whether 2 school funding programs, so the Leadership Incentive Grant and Pupil Learning Credits, had been found to raise pupil attainment. They'd been found to raise pupil attainment, but he also wanted to look to see if the effect had reduced the proportion of pupils committing crime, and he found the Leadership Incentive Grant did not affect crime outcomes, and the Pupil Learning Credits found some crime reducing effects, but these were not statistically significant. Dr. Anna Leyland, she analysed the likelihood of receiving a custodial sentence for children who were referred to or received an intervention from child welfare services. She found custodial sentences occur more often when individuals have had a child welfare service referral or intervention, and there's a stepped increase in the higher likelihood of receiving a custodial sentence as the level of childhood welfare service involvement increases. Then we've got Hannah Dixon, and she examined the feasibility of using childhood educational information to develop predictive models of reoffending trajectories, and her findings indicate we can use administered education information to determine the likelihood of following different reoffending trajectories prior to the first involvement with the criminal justice system. And then finally, we've got Alice Wickersham, who investigated changes in school performance and subsequent involvement in the criminal justice system. So she found pupils could be described as the following, or she found pupils could be described as 5 possible school performance trajectories. And her findings suggest that changes in school performance as early as primary school could help identify pupils who are struggling and in need of additional support. So in terms of research interests, here are just a few research interests that are of interest to MOJ and DFE, which have been broken down into 2 broad themes on reducing reoffending and then the Safer Streets missions. MOJ has also recently updated their new areas of research interest, which should be reviewed when drafting your application. I won't read all of the questions on here, but it's worth going back and having a look at them, but it's also not an exhaustive list. So other questions are also welcome, providing you can demonstrate policy relevance and also the likelihood of impact and uptake. So application requesting to access the share will need to be an accredited researcher. So we recommend you begin the process as soon as possible and in parallel to any research application. To access the data, applicants will need to be accredited under the ONS Accredited Research Scheme, and the forms are listed on here, and they are submitted to ONS. To be eligible, you must either have a undergraduate degree, including a significant proportion of maths or stats, or be able to demonstrate at least 3 years of quantitative research experience. But further guidance is also available on the Data First User Guide, which is available on the gov.uk webpage. And then you will also need to fill in our specifics MOJ Secure Access to Data form. And in terms of what makes a good application, these are just a couple of things that we seem to find when a lot of people apply for the data. So try to be specific about what data you are requesting to access, why you need it, and how you're planning to use it. Be clear in your definition. So how will you define an outcome measure? If you're looking at reoffending, reconviction, or reappearance, over what time period will you measure this? Review our approved external data request log and MOJ stat publications just to check your proposed project isn't overlapping with any existing projects, and use concise, clear language in your application. Not everyone reviewing your application will be an expert in your field or chosen methodology. So what can you expect from us in terms of data owner support and what you can expect from us? Once you've submitted your application initially, this is talking about applying specifically to MOJ rather than the fellowship itself. It will be given a first review prior to going through our internal approval panels. So we'll provide feedback on the application, offers insights into additional detail, which is likely to be requested by the panel, and help you complete the application to our high standard. We can also provide data catalogues, which will give a detailed overview of the data and individual variables. Throughout your research project, we can answer any questions you might have about the data. This may be from our own knowledge, or we might seek advice from other people within MOJ and DFE who use the data on a more regular basis. And then when you're at the stage of producing outputs from your research, these will be reviewed by both ONS and the data owners before being released to you. So we'll complete this review in a timely manner to prevent clearance delays, and we'll be checking that your research is in line with what is approved and can advise on framing interpretation of the data, assuring like appropriate caveats, limitations are signposted. MOJ also have a embedded academic lead who can provide informal academic review of any outputs intended for publication. So this isn't essential for output clearance, but it's just like purely additional advice if you'd like it. And then along with ADR, we can provide opportunities to present your research both within MOJ, DFE, and to others of interest, so like data first academic events, MOJ's areas of research interest seminars, and we can also connect researchers to internal and analysts and policy colleagues by sharing their work and facilitating conversations. And I think, yeah, that's the end. So I guess, has anyone got any questions? And I'm just going to stop sharing so I can actually see people.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Kirby. That was really interesting. And I can, as somebody who works in ADR, I can say that the programme that the Data First team have developed over the few years have been hugely supportive, both to us in enabling use of the research, but also the fellows themselves. There's always been high praise for the interaction, the support and the guidance. So anyone who's looking to use the data in an upcoming application, not just for our funding, but for anyone else, I know they'll be well supported. Steve, is there any? I can't see any questions in the chat at all, but is there any?
Yeah, we have a few questions. So I'll just if I just focus on a specific area at the moment, so thinking about data quality and coverage, Kirby, what is the geographic and temporal coverage of the data set, and are there any gaps or limitations that an applicant should be aware of?
So I can't see that question, but did you say, is there anything on geographical information?
Yeah, what is the geographical and temporal coverage of the data set, and what, if any, gaps or limitations are there that an applicant should be aware of?
Yeah, okay, I'll give that a go. So in terms of the DfE share itself, it covers anyone that was born after the 31st of August 1985. And in terms of the geographical coverage from MOJ, that is anyone from who committed an offence in England and Wales, but it is then linked to DfE, which only covers England. So there's that, I guess, in terms of we are missing the Wales proportion within DfE. So that's something to be aware of. And then in terms of geographical information that's available, we've got police force from the Police National Computer, so the force that dealt with the crime. And then on the DfE side, there's a lot of geographical information in terms of on the pupils. So I think we've got LSOA, the school they attended, local authority, things like that. In terms of the second half on data quality.
Yeah, any gaps or limitations beyond that should be considered?
Nothing like strikes me out the top of my head. I think both MOJ and DfE, in terms of the variables that are available, we've definitely chosen the ones that we are confident in terms of good quality. And then we've got a metadata that we can share that would list if for some reason we've got concerns on a particular variable or anything like that. And then I guess the only other thing to flag is obviously the data is matched, so we don't get 100% match rate, and there is potential for like false positives and things like that. But in our descriptive stats publication, we've done a bias test in the past to see is there any bias introduced in the matching. We found it to be, relatively okay.
Okay, brilliant, excellent. So if I go to the Q&A section here, then question from C. Great presentation. You mentioned previous projects had looked at the neurological and mental health as exposures or outcomes. Is this information available by default in the link share, or is this added separately? And if so, what potential sources are available?
I'll give it a go, but I don't know if Kirsty or Janet from DfE want to come in. But yeah, so mental health is definitely something obviously a lot of people ask for, and I am aware it's definitely a gap in the DfE share. Like we don't link it to like hospital episode statistics or anything like that, but there are other data sets within the share that you can infer it from. So you've got, I think I mentioned the early stage foundation profiles, which is available as the DfE share. That would give you an indication. And then you've also got, we've got OASIS linked, which is offender assessment. It's like a questionnaire, and that would also give you some details of the mental health of the offender. So these are available as part of the share. If you'd like those data sets, you have to, when you submit an application, just list like what data set and what variables you want. So you just need to flag there that is one that you are interested in. And then I think also on special educational need, there's a mental health option on that could give you some indication. But I guess it's just flagging that it can be used to look at mental health, but it's definitely not the gold standard for looking at mental health.
Yeah.
In the data tables, obviously, if anyone makes a request, it's by request. So anything of that nature would be a sensitive item. So they've got to make a case and make a selection for various fields in the metadata for that. And we do have sort of things like primary SEN type and secondary type within the school census as well. So those have allowed values for various different aspects of why they are SEN. And basically some of that does include the mental health aspect. But yeah, as Kirby said, it's a guide, not a great, so you can link to some degree on that. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, I'm just running through these. So another question from Tanya. Does the linked data set contain only individuals who have a record both in DfE and the MOJ data, or are there control individuals, those who have no experience with the criminal justice system?
Yeah, so you can contextualize it with the wider pupil population, so it's offenders and non-offenders.
Yeah, we just ask people to make that clear in the application form when they apply, so that, because normally we would just provide the data that's in the data set unless they specifically need those groups as well.
Okay, excellent. And one here from Niels. Thank you for the presentation again. I was wondering whether the Oasis was available for all people, including PNC. Additionally, are the PNC flags, such as domestic abuse flag, included?
Yeah, so Oasis will be included. It will be included, yeah, if there's a record for it, then yeah, it will be included. I guess it's a flag. Not everyone should get an Oasis, but we don't always have a record for everyone in Oasis. That's just worth being aware. But yeah, it is available in the share, but we don't have the domestic abuser flag. That's not included in the data share.
Okay, excellent. I'm just running through some other questions that we've had come through by other means. Bit of a question around training and resources that might be available. So if someone is new to administrative data, but obviously recognises the potential that this data set holds, do either of the data owners involved provide any sort of training sessions or other resources that could be looked at as I'm constructing my project?
Yeah, so I guess on what I mentioned in the Safer Streets workshop previously, and we are thinking and at the moment exploring making synthetic data, like a synthetic data set of the MOJ DFE share. And then once we've created that and both departments are happy for that to be released, then yeah, we plan to do a workshop and use that data set as like the core of the workshop. So I guess that would be an opportunity there.
Okay, excellent. And I'm just having a quick look here at some other ones. Okay, quick question on the dataset update and refresh frequency. Is that something that happens on a regular basis, or is it sort of a bit more ad hoc in the approach?
We try to update it annually, but it's not like we hit the 1st of May and we're updating it. But yeah, the aim is annually.
Okay, excellent. Brilliant. And
there's another question in the chat, Steve, based on machine learning methodologies.
Yes, sorry, I've just seen that one. So yes, would you consider projects using machine learning based methodologies?
My answer would be yes, but now this could be completely wrong. So I was going to say, the SRS doesn't cope, does it?
No, the SRS
it's changed. It has evolved slightly from where we were a year and a half or so ago. So now there is capability within the SRS for machine learning technologies. However, there's not a great deal, and it would be a conversation with them to see what is possible within the project area, and they approve that on a case-by-case basis. So we would have to work kind of all together to make sure that what you were planning was possible within the SRS. But from, I think, both departments' perspectives, as long as it was, in line with the project and the outputs were all approved by us, we would be content with that.
Excellent. And I see Say's just come back with a follow-up to his question from a while ago there. So this is on the mental health question. Do you have an idea of the percentage of children with an education record who ever appear in the PNC? From your description of a previous project, it sounds like it's likely quite low, although it doesn't seem to have affected useful insights.
If you look at our descriptive stats publication, I'm sure you mentioned that, but there is definitely enough, like there's a high enough number to do analysis on it and be able to break it down by like offence and things like that. So it's, yeah, I wouldn't be concerned in terms of how many people we can get. I can probably quickly find it.
Okay. Excellent.
I've just been sent through another comment question. Saying based on the objectives that were flashed up at the beginning, thinking about engagement and dissemination and kind of like translating information from a potential research exec to plan for it. how's best to interact with your departments? Like, are there contacts that they can kind of work with, that they can build relationships with, so when they are generating useful information out of their research, both for MOJ and DFE, like are there key points of contacts at their departments that they can build relationships with, bearing in mind this is all new to them?
Yeah, I think on MOJ side, we'd be happy to facilitate that, and yeah, put you in contact with some relevant MOJ policy colleagues.
Yep,
Just
same
going
on the
back.
DFE side as well. We've got the serious violence team within DFE who are happy to have conversations and kind of discuss applications and outputs as you go through the project.
And just to go back to the question, I don't have the percentage, but the last year we matched 1.67 million offenders. So it's, yeah, there's definitely enough people there to do analysis on.
Excellent, thank you. And we have another question here, this time from Bethany. Bethany's wondering, given the sensitive safeguarding nature, what, if any, data is available relating to child protection information, i.e. children known to children's social care or on CP plans, etc., in addition to ACEs and social determinants of vulnerability?
Cassie, I'll pass that one to you.
Yeah, not a problem. So within the data set, we've got children in need data and children looked after data. So that has a whole coverage of social care there. As Janet said earlier on, all of the data is by request. So you would need to go through and select which variables you were interested in out of those data sets and have a real clear case for using those. And we then obviously got the extra protection on those with the data being accessed within the ONS SRS and the statistical disclosure control policy that we would adhere to on outputs as well, and ensuring that all rounding percentages, etc., are in line with what we do as a department. But we do have metadata available to share to show what's in there currently. If that's useful, we can get that out from either department using those email addresses that Kirby's got in the slides there.
Excellent. And we have another question come in, this time from Chiara. Is there a website for a complete list of variables, description of the data set, lists of current and past projects based on this, so that she can ensure that any project is a novel project? And it's not an obvious question, so yeah.
I've just replied in the chat with the link to up to August in terms of what ones have been approved using the DFE share, and I'll just reply with the emails in terms of who to email to get the metadata.
Thank you.
Excellent. You can also visit the flagship dataset page for this dataset, where there are links to various resources and data insights from fellows and other things there. So do visit that page as well, and we'll post that up in the chat in a moment. And another question here. So are there any future plans to make the data available via SAIL databank, or is access limited to the ONS SRS?
Yeah, so at the moment, access would be limited to the ONS Secure Research Service, and we have plans to explore making it available via SAIL, but it won't be anytime soon. There's a lot of hoops we need to jump through, just because of using the Police National Computer. We have a lot of security restrictions on that, so we'd need to make sure we were happy with it in terms of that as a hosting environment. So we have been trying to explore it for a while, but at the moment, yeah, it's just ONS Secure Research Service.
Excellent. Lola, do you have anything else? Any other questions that have come through your end?
Yes, one question over clarification over the approval process and how the different kind of mechanisms for researchers submitting ideas, kind of building them up and actually writing and getting it properly approved, because they're aware ONS has a separate system for an accredited project, but is there another kind of parallel system they have to go through with MOJ and DFE, just to make sure that their project is possible, feasible and ethical?
Yeah, so we don't use RAP for the MOJ DFE share, so we don't use that application form. There's just a secure access data form that's published online that both ourselves and DFE use. So you just fill it in, you submit it to both our emails, and then both departments will give it an initial look. We'll share it with each other and share you the comments together. And then it's just a lot of going back and forth until we think we're happy with it to go to both of our panels. And then, yeah, both panels need to approve it. But yeah, it is just one application form.
Excellent. And one more question here that's just come in, this time from Anna. So Anna's asking, she said she had the impression that there already was some synthetic data available for the DFE MOJ share going back a few years, but is that, was that a thing? Is it available?
I don't think it was a thing that I know of anyway.
There was cross justice. Sorry, I can't speak.
Yeah, there is a cross justice one.
Still can't speak.
Yeah. There's DataFirst have recently just released a cross justice data set one, which is available via the UK Data Service, and we're looking to do a similar thing for the MOJ DFE share.
Okay, lovely. And Neil's just come back with another question. Is there any information on victims such as gender, for instance, to identify violence against women and girls?
No, unfortunately not. We don't have data on victims or witnesses. Excellent.
Okay, I'll give it a moment just to see if anyone else is typing up a question. As I said in the chat, any questions that we can't answer here live, we will of course compile these and we will publish these on the ADR website on the flagship dataset page alongside the recording of this webinar and the slide decks that accompany it, and of course that will have the slide decks will have various links in that you can follow to get further information around the data set. But yeah, I think the questions might have dried up for now. So if I can pass it back to you, Lola.
Yes, I was just going to say, if anyone is looking for any further inspiration, there were previous fellows mentioned that have used the MOJ DFE data sets that are published, data insights and data explained, that kind of give snippets of insights into what they think, what it's like to use the data, how they can help improve use of the data, but also insights into the kind of evidence that's being generated from using the data, and they're nice, manageable, digestible bits of information to help kind of your thought process. So I do recommend having a look on the ADR website under those particular researchers. I think we've lost Steve. Okay.
I'm still here, but I'm just looking for a link.
I don't think there are any more questions, so I just want to thank Kirby and Janet and Kirsty for coming along today from MOJ and DFE to sharing their thoughts and their expertise on this particular flagship data set. And please do reach out to us, to them, if you have any questions, not just for this particular funding call, but in other places you may be submitting grant applications where you want to use these data sets, because again, their knowledge is irreplaceable and they will be able to get to what you need quicker than anyone else. And thank you again for coming today. And I think that wraps up. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.